Welcome to the Education Matters podcast. I am your host for today, Cynthia Martinez, and we are at the West Texas Reading Symposium today. And today our guest is going to be Rhonda Leon. Rhonda, if you'd like to say hi to our...
Hi, everybody.
Yes.
So happy to be here.
Thank you. And Rhonda is our Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant Manager with the Texas Education Agency. I had to write that down because I thought there's no way I'm going to memorize this.
It's a lot.
And Rhonda brings a wealth of experience with her. She's navigating the challenges of literacy instruction, and by implementing the research-based instructional strategies as well. But no matter your role, when you're watching today, I'm sure this conversation is going to offer some valuable perspectives on how we can support readers at every level. So now we're going to go ahead and get started. Rhonda, I'm going to start by asking you about your role within the Texas Education Agency. Can you tell us more about that?
So I do manage the Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant. It's a federal grant. Here in Texas, we know it as the Texas Reading Initiative. Mm-hmm. And we provide, there's three prongs to it. One, we provide books beginning at birth for early education, where people can log on to b3.org, b-3.org, and they can sign up to get free books in Spanish or in English. We also have lots of resources for parents and early childhood providers on the website. And then we also provide literacy conferences and literacy coaches K through 5 across the state.
Thank you. And actually, I do want to say that Region 19 is the recipient of the Texas Reading Initiative grant. Yeah. So thank you to TEA for awarding it for both elementary and secondary. So we are very grateful for that. Moving on to the next question. What do you see as the biggest challenges facing literacy education in our schools today?
That's a great question. You know, teachers have so many things that are on their plates. They are expected to meet every student at every level, educationally, socially, emotionally, handle classroom management, all the things that they're supposed to do. And also historically, teachers have been required to create all their own materials and all the instruction and make sure that's aligned to the standards. And there is so much that is on a teacher's plate that I believe that the initiative that we're doing in Texas with high quality instruction materials, where we're giving the materials to teachers and everything that they need to meet students' needs, is one of the things that we're helping to do to meet that challenge for them. Because I think of it like if you play, if you're a professional basketball player, right? Mm-hmm. The owner of the team isn't asking you to make the basketball and to clean the courts and make the right court with the right amount of bounce and the right shoes and the right uniforms. We're not asking for professionals to do that. And so we, owners give them all the tools that they need and then allow them to use their talents and abilities and knowledge to play the game effectively. So I think about that, what we're really trying to do in the state of Texas, where we're giving teachers the tools, the resources, the materials that they need. And then they can use their expertise and their knowledge with those materials to do what they do best.
I love that analogy because, like you mentioned, the teachers are not going to be creating the game. They're just going to play the game with the materials that they have, which in this case are the high quality instructional materials. Right. I love that. And we do see that within our region too. We have quite a few districts in our region that are implementing the OERs, which we'll get into later. Yeah. But they have seen the growth. So we do know that this is definitely working for our students. Yeah. Well, moving on to our next question. How have you seen the literacy needs differ between elementary and secondary?
Yeah. So in elementary, we're really teaching kids how to read. We're teaching them the foundational skills of reading, especially in the early grades, right? Mm-hmm. And so when we think about, let me back up for a second. When we think about the simple view of reading, we think about decoding, right? Mm-hmm. The ability to read the words on the page times their language comprehension equals reading comprehension. And so with littles, we have to teach them like this letter, this shape is this letter that makes this sound. And when we put these two letters together, they make this sound. And when we put all these sounds together, it makes a word. And then the word means something. So for example, if we have the word, a child sees the letters SHEEP, then they need to look at it and be able to say, oh, those letters make the sounds sh, e, p, sheep. And then in their mind, they picture a cute little white little, furry creature that says bah, right? And so that's what we're doing with elementary, especially in the younger grades. And then we have to continue to build on that word knowledge and that decoding and the language knowledge all the way up through high school. But once we get into high school, really what we're asking students to do is to take what they're reading and analyze it. Think about it in a critical way to be able to grapple with complex text and then to be able to write about it. And so sometimes people think, well, what about kids who, that's great for kids who are college bound, but do all kids need it? And I kind of think, well, do we all have to choose an insurance company or an insurance policy? And we need to have those kinds of critical thinking skills to be able to look at a text, critically think about it, and decide and make the best decision for our family. So that skill and that way of thinking isn't just isolated for education. It's a life skill that we need in every area. And anytime we have to make adult decisions in life.
And I completely agree with you. Right now that you mentioned the science of reading, we do have the reading academies here in Texas, right? And what we did see is that need for secondary reading academies. So I do want to give a shout out to Linda Caudillo, who runs the Texas Reading Initiative Grant for Secondary. She actually decided this is a need, and she decided to create a pilot for the science of reading, the reading academies for secondary, because that need is there, like you mentioned. And so thank you once again, for providing that grant, because with that grant, we are able to target those areas of need. I am going to go ahead and move on to the next question. Like I mentioned, we were going to go into the OER. So now, how has a conversation around literacy evolved in recent years, especially with initiatives like the research-based instructional strategies and then the open education resources?
Yeah. So one of the things that the pandemic did was it really brought transparency to education. We knew it before, but during the pandemic, it became like so obvious that what was happening from one classroom to the next classroom, between schools within a district and districts within the state, the students' experiences were very different. And so what we realized was that we needed to codify or give everybody the same educational opportunities, regardless of what classroom, what district, or what city they were in across the state. So in order to do that, we did a lot of research about what does the research say about literacy and the best way for us to give literacy instruction. Like what needs to be in the classrooms? Because we didn't want to just go anecdotally. We didn't want to just say, well, we think this or that. We really wanted our findings and the work that we're doing to be grounded in research. So we identified the 4 different components that need to be in every classroom for students to succeed. The first one we talked about, right? The foundational. So that's phonics, decoding. The second piece is all students having access to grade level complex text. The third piece is that knowledge building piece where we're building knowledge, because the more you know, the better you read, and the better you read, the more you know, right? Yes. And then all of that work and all of that thinking being grounded in the text, which is the fourth ones, text-based responses, so that students are interacting with text critically, analytically. They're reading about it, they're talking about it, and they're writing about it. Because that's really when we see literacy scores and that I call it the stickiness really begins to form itself there, so that students are better readers.
No, definitely. And you know what? Right now that you mentioned that, it does remind me of right now the OER that we have, which is Bluebonnet Learning. I'm very fortunate to be a product advisor, and in analyzing the curriculum, now working with it, I do see exactly what you mentioned. You do see those text-based responses, and you do see mentions from all over the state of Texas, because sometimes there's some curriculums that might mention other states as well, which is absolutely fine. Right. But that OER, you really do see how it's centered in Texas. Even El Paso is mentioned in there sometimes, which is great to see. But of course, those research-based instructional strategies, we do see how they're beneficial for our students to learn in a whole aspect, right? For all of them to learn holistically is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah. And really, so when we started with the research-based instructional strategies, right?
Mhm.
So we said, this is what they need. Now what? So it's not just enough to say, you need this.
Mhm.
We also need to be able to provide the means for that to happen. So that's kind of like where we entered open educational resources, right? And the
Yes.
Bluebonnet Learning, where we worked with specialists in the field to create this curriculum that we could give to all students. And the best thing about it is that it's open educational. So nobody has to buy it. If you have access to an internet, you have access to the curriculum. And so, I mean, I have to give a shout out to House Bill 1605, which really gave us the ability to do that, to create them and to give it to schools across Texas. In addition, it went through a pretty rigorous review in our instructional review. And I always say it right. Instructional review materials approval process, where it went through the State Board of Education and received approval from them to be able to share that across the state.
And I do want to say that we do have districts within Region 19 that have adopted the OER, the Bluebonnet Learning, and we are getting very good reviews about it. They do like it, especially the new components that they have, like the slide decks for each lesson. The leadership snapshots are very popular as well. So very, very grateful to have the OER now available.
And we have some podcasts coming too.
That's true.
Which are really awesome. I've heard them. They're so amazing. I'm so excited about that.
I was able to hear a little snip of one, and I thought, okay, I could listen to this on my way to work, just to see what we're going to see in the classroom. So I know teachers can do the same, and they're going to be excited to have those available. Moving on to our next question. What strategies have you seen work best for struggling readers? And you might have already hit on this with the research-based instructional strategies, but if there's anything else you want to expand on.
I think that's a great question. And the first thing we have to think about is the root of the struggle. So we really have to identify at what place the student is struggling, right? Is it going back to that simple view of reading? Is it at the decoding place? And what do we need to do to support that? We, using that explicit direct instruction is really the key, and doing it in a way that is engaging for students and that they can really hook into that learning, right? Or it could be right? The language comprehension piece. So do they have enough language skills, vocabulary, background knowledge to be able to access and understand that text, right? So we have to look at it first and say, where's the discrepancy or where's the need at? And then from there, we can look at how we fill those needs through, like I said, direct explicit instruction or lots of exposure to text and background knowledge and vocabulary so that they understand what those words mean.
And you're right. That background knowledge is crucial because that's how our students, even ourselves, that's how we're able to make connections. So if we need it, right? Obviously our students are going to need it as well, especially the little ones who are still learning, they're growing, learning about the world. The more connections we make, the better.
Yeah.
Now, the next question that I have for you is, where do you see the greatest opportunities for growth in literacy education over the next 5 years?
Yeah. I am so excited about all the work that we've done up to this point. With elementary, we've put a lot of energy into elementary, but I'm very excited about the prospect and the work that we're starting to do in secondary, because I know that our secondary teachers need it. They want it. Our students need it. And so I'm very excited about the work that's being done in secondary.
Definitely. And like I mentioned earlier, with those reading academies for secondary, hopefully, I know right now it's in the pilot stage. Region 19 is the pilot right now, but we do see great feedback from the teachers. They say we do need it because as much as, we do know that we're teaching foundational skills in elementary school, sometimes we do have newcomers in secondary where we do have to teach them those foundational skills as well. So it would definitely benefit our secondary teachers to be knowledgeable in foundational skills and the science of reading.
And I just have to give a huge shout out to you guys at Region 19 because you were innovators in saying, we want our secondary teachers to have this knowledge. And you have some very brave secondary teachers that said, let me do this. And
Yes.
I am very excited to see the outcomes of that.
Thank you. Thank you. And I do want to say Linda Caudillo, I can't take the credit for it. Linda Caudillo started that. And I think we're doing a great job with that as well. So hopefully it gets picked up for another year. But I do want to end with this question because you sound very passionate about the work that you do. So what motivates you to continue doing the work that you do?
I work with such an amazing team of people, passionate educators who truly, live, breathe, sleep, talk about all the time how we can improve education in Texas and reading in Texas. And every single time we have the opportunity to talk with an ESC or go to a school or even just parents in our local grocery store about the impact that our work is doing, it motivates and energizes us to continue to do the best that we can do.
I can really see it. You're very passionate about what you do, and I know you do your role very well, especially because you support us. I can proudly say that you are always there for anything that we need. So with that being said, Rhonda, I do want to thank you for being here with us today, joining us on our podcast, and hopefully we get to see you again soon.
Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity. I love coming to El Paso.
Thank you. And for all of our listeners and watchers, thank you for joining us today.